Welcome back to Box F1 Fantasy. We are heading to the Austrian Grand Prix, and I have survived. As you can see, I am B. I was quite sick with COVID last week, so forgive any voice crackles or things like that. Without further ado, let's just get straight into the pain. We suffered at the Spanish Grand Prix. Feels like an eternity ago, if I'm being honest. But as you can see, the results on screen were quite poor, nothing really to write home about or write overseas about. So we've got a bit of a mixed bag of results. We've got a few interesting setups here going into the Austrian Grand Prix. And, well, how did it go for you in the Spanish Grand Prix? How many DNFs did you get hit by? How many rank positions that you gain or lose? Let me know. Currently, my Team 2 is leading the way with just over 38k in world ranking, with Team 1 with the second biggest budget at the moment. That one, I feel Team 1 is still poised to overtake my other teams. As you can see, I still have my 3 times my wild card and my autopilot still left on that one. However, I still have Limitless left on Team 2. So, like I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm splitting the strategy as much as possible across the 3 teams. But there will be some coming together this weekend as we look at some possible lineups. And looking at the track, we've got 4 overtake zones, straight mode zones, sorry. This is personally one of my favorite tracks. I always enjoy watching the racing here. And it is going to be interesting because it is summer in Europe and it is scorching hot. So be ready for some fireworks with the Mercedes powered team cars, I will say. And before we get into our specific tips and tricks, don't miss any updates. Follow me on Twitter and on TikTok at BoxBoxF1 Fantasy. I also do have a website, boxboxf1fantasy.com. We've got driver cards, constructor stats, lineup optimizers, and a lot more in-depth analysis if you are so inclined to have a look at it. And if always you want to support that channel a little bit extra, there is a link to support me on Ko-Fi on my website as well as this video's description. Now, like I said, watch out for Mercedes powered cars in this hot weather. So this was the weather a forecast a few days ago. I will check it live just now. But another thing to note is that we are at quite high altitude, which will put more stress on the turbo. So there is a very good chance we see some engine failures, some battery packs packing up and things like that. So I do expect a few DNFs, especially given the intense heat we are experiencing across, well, I say we, Europe is experiencing these past few days. Now, let's get straight into our 2 times driver selection. I would be amiss if I didn't start with Hamilton. Hamilton, pure masterclass in Spain. Absolutely mastered that 3-stop strategy, was in a class of his own. And he is a very popular choice for the 2 times driver this week. That is for people who are pivoting away from Antonelli. A lot of people are still on Antonelli, which I think might be a bit risky. Given that Mercedes seems likely that they are going to tune down their energy deployment slightly just to try and survive the race this weekend. So I want to wait for FP to see exactly where the pace lies, and also if we see any engine blowups in free practice. If we see engines failing in practice, yeah, if you still have a no negative, it might be a good time to play it. But anyway, now, why I am likely to go with Hamilton? That Ferrari seems fast. They are nailing the degradation on that car. And look at the scores that Hamilton has got the last 4 races. So we've got 20, 42, 27, and 56. Of course, the Mercedes are going to be on the back foot here, I believe, given the engine limitations with the heat and so on. And I just think he's in the groove now. Hamilton, I think, has found his comfort zone with this car. It is reacting the way he wants to. Like, things are clicking for him finally. So I would also keep an eye on Leclerc, but Hamilton is also cheaper than Antonelli, which might be good for people who are struggling for budget, as I am. My lowest budget team, Team 2, has 112.6 million in the bank, which is not impressive in the least. So I think Hamilton is a good budget option to keep in mind as well. Someone who I have not seen people talk about is Max Verstappen. Why? Because it's Verstappen. This is the Red Bull Ring. They've got a big upgrade package coming in, and supposedly they're going to lose the last few kilograms and be at or very close to the weight limit, which I've seen different estimates that say it's worth 0.1 second, 0.2 seconds. So we need to wait for free practice, of course, but Max Verstappen is someone who is on my radar, at least. And we'll see on how we can possibly fit him in. Another strategy that I have come up for this weekend, depending on free practice, of course, is to keep Antonelli as my 2 times driver, but keep about 3 or 4 million in the bank so that I can final fix to either Hamilton, Russell, I mean, God forbid, Piastri or Norris or even Russell. But we could possibly get Verstappen in comfortably with a final fix if we planned for it. And he is a differential play, so if for some reason the Ferrari packs up and the Mercedes pack up, hey, here's Verstappen. The only caveat is that he needs to score 65 points to go up in budget. It's only 0.1, so if he drops in price, it'll probably be 0.1 as well, which is not the worst drop in the world, but it is something to keep in mind. But keep an eye on Verstappen, see how he gets along with that new upgrade package, and his teammate, of course, as well. And we'll get into his teammate in just a second as well. Hot potatoes. On Twitter, I promised some food analogies, so here we go. So these are the people we want to drop like hot potatoes. And why? Ocon, Colapinto have been doing stellar. Excellent performance this season so far. I mean, Ocon, 9, 14, 8, 12, and 8 points in the last 5 races. And he has risen in budget considerably so far. And that's why he is sitting at 10.3 million currently. Now, at 10.3 million, you could already fit in 2 budget drivers for that one price. You could bring in Nico Hülkenberg and Arvid Lindblad. Just saying. I mean, Lindblad's 5.7, Hülkenberg is 3. So, are those 2 going to score less than Ocon? And where you're going to get budget to fit the other slots. So I think Ocon has been a fantastic asset for value increasing as an investment, but I think it's time to cash him in while it's hot. He needs 17 points for budget rise this weekend, which is a big ask in my opinion. You could argue Silverstone is next week, it's a sprint weekend, and more points, blah, blah, blah. But I think we have better options available to us now, especially people with a budget similar to mine at around 112 to 115 million. Colapinto, same story. He has scored a higher maximum point with 25 3 races ago, but he needs 27 points this weekend for max budget rise, which is not impossible, but almost impossible. So these are some mashed potatoes that I might move into the hot potatoes category. So if you've got these, I would strongly suggest getting them out of your team and bringing in some more effective budget drivers. I think your budget can be better used elsewhere. Now, overripe bananas. You definitely don't want these in your team. Obviously, the Aston Martins, yeah. The Williams, of course, stay away. Now, Bottas and Behrman have an asterisk because Bottas is going to hit the price floor this weekend. So, in the worst case scenario, if you are tight for budget, you could bring in Bottas. And because of the price floor of 3 million, he will only lose 0.2 million of budget this week. So you could consider him a stopgap in your team, a stop loss, we'll say. And Behrman has an asterisk because he's had some bad luck these last few races. But if he scores 7 points this weekend, he'll go down in price by 0.2, if I'm not mistaken, or 0.6, I can't remember which. But if he then scores 7 points again next week in Silverstone, he'll gain that budget right back. And I think he is overall a very good driver. He has dropped budget recently due to some issues, but I think he might be a good replacement for Ocon if you do want to have some Haas drivers in there. There's a big price difference between Ocon and Behrman right now, and I think Behrman can get back to scoring us some good points. So there, people, don't bring them in just yet, but just keep an eye on them in the next race, or unless you are strapped for cash and you want to set yourself up early for Silverstone. Now, the hot dogs, the good, delicious drivers we want in our teams. And then, of course, we have Hulkenberg as an honorable mention. He's not on screen, symmetry is important in the presentation, I think. So now let's start with the two warning signs. So Bortoleto. Just before recording this, I saw on X that people were saying that Audi might be bringing their first upgrades this weekend because of the ADUO, or whatever. So I'm very, very curious to have a look at their free practice data. And as soon as I have that, I will update the simulations on my website, and you'll be able to see their quali pace, long run pace, and simulations, etc. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. And Perez is here because he is a potential budget gainer for us this week. If I'm not mistaken, he only needs to score 7 or 8 points, I think, to go up in budget. We'll check that in just a second. But there's a lot of numbers for me to remember today. But yeah, you get the idea. So he's at an interesting price point. He is in a Cadillac. But if you're looking for someone likely to go up in budget, he is a good option, one of the better options that you have. We don't have a lot of B-tier drivers going up in value this weekend, unfortunately. But he's someone you might need to consider bringing in. Lawson is one of those who are poised to rise. He's been on good form, as well as Lindblad, and I think Lindblad is an excellent option to bring into your team. He's someone I personally am considering bringing in. You could even take out Lawson to bring in Lindblad to save about 2.5-ish million on your budget to set yourself up more towards that 4A light or 3A kind of lineup, you think? And then right in the middle, we've got our 12 million boys. We've got Hadjar and Gasly. So Gasly is at 12.1 million, if I'm not mistaken, and Hadjar at 12. They were trading blows for the podium. The FIA first gave the podium to Hadjar, then took it back, and that whole fiasco. But Hadjar and Gasly are very, very interesting drivers to have in our teams right now. Especially Hadjar has me curious because he's 0.1 cheaper, and that those Red Bull upgrades are supposed to be quite spicy, so be careful for them now. And of course, I would be amiss if I didn't mention Hulkenberg. Why? He's at the price floor. He cannot lose us any money. If he does DNF, okay, we lose points, but we don't lose budget, which is more important, I think. So Hulkenberg, Bortoleto, the two Audis, fragile, fast-ish. I need to see how the upgrades come this week, but definitely do not write them off. Now, let's have a look at those budgets, shall we? And have a look at some of our early simulations. So, as of right now, we do not have F1 Fantasy Tools updated sims for this weekend, but the budget builder, of course, is available to us. So let's just have a look at that, shall we? Come on. Hello. There we go. Okay, so Lundblad, top of the budget, rises. He needs minus 12 points to go up by a minimum and minus 7 for max price rise. And as I mentioned, we have got Perez here. He needs just 7 points for max price. That's it. And then 1 point for a minimum price rise. Bortoleto just behind with 4 and 9, and then Lawson with 2 and 10. It's like Ocon is here on the threshold here with 17 mil for a max price rise. 8 is still doable, but yeah. And of course, Hulkenberg at the price floor cannot really lose budget anymore. So that's why he's up here. Like I said, Colapinto, 18 points for minimum price rise, 27 for max. So if you're looking at budget gaining, look no further than Lawson, Bortoleto, Perez, Hadjar, Gasly, and Lundblad. And this is another reason why Lundblad is such an attractive option for us. Minus 12 points, very doable. And he did score 10 points in the last race and 18 in the previous one. And if we just look even further back in his history, we've got the minus 16, of course, which was not so great. But yeah, you can see here all the drivers' scores in the season so far, fantasy points, that is. Now, I did add this new feature on the list view here, so you can see how many points are needed for big drop, small drop, and small rise, and so on. So you can sort by who needs the least points to go up in budget. So we've got Hamilton actually leading the charge here. He needs only minus 17 points for a small price rise and 5 for a big price rise. And then, of course, Lundblad slots in right behind with Gasly and Hadjar, as you saw on the other one. Now, these are only prior historical-based predictions. This has no... these predictions are slightly non-indicative at the moment. It doesn't, like, for example, Lewis Hamilton's win doesn't weigh in heavily yet. We need that free practice for the way I designed this algorithm for it to, the way it works, needs free practice, at least one free practice session for it to be balanced and make sense, the predictions. But you can get an idea of the confidence interval of where it predicts Hamilton can finish. So you can 2 up to 42 points with Antonelli, minus 14 up to 51. So like this is your risk band, I would say. So so far Hamilton hasn't gone into the negative this season, which reflects in his confidence interval, and Antonelli has had a negative finish, which is why it does show here in the negative interval there. And also the general Mercedes reliability is also factored into this possible potential negative here. So something to keep in mind while you're planning your teams. So, yeah, of course, Verstappen here, I expect him to score higher than this, I'm sure. And also higher upside potential here, 50 points. So I'd say people are sleeping on Verstappen. I think Verstappen is someone who will be a massively good differential play. Now, just look at this weather, hey? About 34 degrees Celsius for the race on Sunday. That is going to be hot and intense. Qualifying might also be tricky, very hot as well. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. I also just draw your attention to the accuracy tab here. If you want to have a look at how accurate my predictions were in the past, you can see different stats here. You can filter by driver, constructor, by when the predictions were made before free practice, how they did after free practice, and so on. So there is a lot of data if you want to dive in here, and you can also see per round accuracy information. So feel free to have a browse around here. And of course, we've got our season summary as well, if you want to just catch up where everything is, who scored actual championship points and fantasy, etc. So everything is here up for grabs. And keep an eye out for, after free practice 1 and 2, this data analysis tab will be updated with best lap, best 3, average laps, and so on. So there's a lot of data that's going to be available here. Okay, but enough blab, blab, blab. Let's see what I've got planned for my teams. This is the setup I have right now. And let me just make sure everything's showing nicely. Yes, okay. So, team 1. I don't have a lot of transfers to work with, but something I am leaning towards is I want to get out of Mercedes. I think I'll get to that, back to that in a second, but I don't think Mercedes is the constructor to go with this weekend. You might want to bring them back for Silverstone, but that's a whole other thing. But if we do something like this, that leaves me in a very nice spot where, in case Verstappen does well, I can take out Hamilton and then just chuck him in there with a bit of budget left to spare. So that is one option that I'm thinking of, something like this. Only uses 2 transfers. That's fine. Another idea I've got is to leave Antonelli as is, like this. Get rid of Mercedes. With this, I should be able to get up to Verstappen. Yes, I can get up to Verstappen as well. However, there is an option where I'd like to do something like this. So take out Lawson and bring in Pierre Gasly. And that leaves me enough to bring in Hamilton. Not Antonelli. Unfortunately, I'm short by 0.2 million. Yay. So this is another option, another team I am looking at, to have, these are leading the pack with the midfield drivers. I especially believe Hadjar has a lot of potential with the upgrades in the Red Bull. So this is something I am looking at. The only thing here is this double Audi, which is not fantastic, but I think we can live with it. Another option is to, if Mercedes look okay, I could leave it like this, and I'll just pivot, I think, to Lindblad, just for a bit of, just splitting, just getting away from more Audi assets. And then I could perhaps do something like this, something. We've got options here. We've got a few options here. I do like something like this. Although I am inclined to go towards Red Bull as a constructor this weekend more than most weekends. Similar kind of situation here, very similar lineup. I already have Gasly in here instead of Hadjar. So kind of the same idea. More or less like this. Okay, I'm a bit short here to get to Verstappen, but we could, switch Lawson to a Lindblad, for example. We've got a few options here. Nothing too interesting going on with this team here. This one's kind of in a bit of a weird spot. Like, we could actually fit in Mercedes as well. And could we leave Lawson? No, that's a bit of a stretch too far. But yeah, so, and none of these other options are interesting to me. Alonso, nope. Yeah, the only one is Lindblad, possibly. Perhaps Perez, but I think that would be, just wasting a transfer. I don't think a transfer is worth bringing Perez in. So those are some of the ideas I have. I do like the idea of... this one's the more awkward one, though, because I've got McLaren and Mercedes. I really don't want either of them this weekend. But if I get rid of someone, I'll probably get rid of McLaren, so I can bring in Ferrari. And then the problem is Ocon. This guy is like just like a bit too expensive in my... But we could do something like this, I believe. And we could fit in a Pierre Gasly, and then also Isaac Hadjar. That's the nice thing. I've got a bit more budget in this team. I don't love this Hulkenberg and Bortoletto double up here. Could we get to... No, we could not get there. Okay, that's fine. So we've got a few options. I'm leaning more towards this leave it ready for final fix kind of situation like this. Like if I hold it like this would be perfect, I think. And if Antonelli does well, fantastic, you know. Get rid of him, I can bring in Verstappen. So I think this is likely going to be what I do. That, or either bring in Hamilton and switch out Lawson for what's his face? Gasly. Where's Gasly? There we go. Something like that. That leaves me, you know, in a good, okay position for the next week. It might leave me a bit priced out though if I want to pivot back to Mercedes. Might be a bit of a stretch. Yeah, that's the only thing. So I'll just carefully consider free practice before I go to something like this. So that's basically the lineups I have been thinking about so far. Let me know in the comments what you think. Who are you going for? Do you trust the double Audis? Do you think the Aduo upgrades are going to do anything, or a bunch of nothing? Let me know your thoughts, please. Now, that pretty much wraps it up for this episode, but just some food for thought. Like I mentioned, Mercedes are likely to tune down the energy deployment to cope with the heat, so keep an eye on all the Mercedes-powered cars. Ferrari seem to be on the upslope. They seem to be gaining performance and confidence. Keep an eye on Red Bull, on their upgrade package, to see how effective that is. Expect them to hide the pace a little bit, so free practice 1, not so much. Free practice 2, I'll start paying a bit more attention to the data and so on. But another thing, think about your Silverstone team. It might be worth taking a -10 now to set yourself up for a good sprint weekend team. So keep in mind, a driver that doesn't necessarily do well now might score better and get budget in Silverstone, which is a sprint weekend. And that includes Behrman and Bottas, as I mentioned in our hot dog, hot potato section. So there's all your food for thought. Now, here's my spicy taco hot take of the week. Red Bull will score more points than Mercedes this week. That's my bold prediction. That's my taco. You can eat it or leave it. So, do you agree? Disagree? And yeah, it's going to be interesting. This is recorded before any free practice, so this is going totally off of vibes and rumors. So, and then a little bonus prediction there. I think one McLaren and one Mercedes will DNF this weekend. So, sorry, I guess, to whoever that happens to. Well, as always, be sure to follow me on X. That's where I am most active. Feel free to send me a DM, leave me a comment, and I will get back to you with team suggestions, answer any questions you may have, and keep an eye out for my final thoughts video after free practice 2. There will be a deadline stream this week. Fortunately, my sicknesses have resolved it and my personal schedule has lined up, so I will be joining you guys again for a live stream this weekend. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later this week for the final thoughts video. Goodbye.